Hello NBA fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly series here on the NBA the week that was. In the 22nd episode of this series, I'll be analyzing the Philadelphia 76ers and what went well for them this year, what could be worked on moving forward, and how I think they'll do when the season resumes. So without further ado, let's get right into this episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly series here on the NBA the week that was. The Sixers had quite an interesting season, looking like one of the most volatile teams in the NBA. They could potentially be NBA champions, or just falter in the first round of the playoffs. Let's first talk about what makes them the potential NBA champions. I want to talk about the positives of the offseason first. Despite some of the offseason additions such as Al Horford not fitting in as well as the 76ers thought they would, on their day, Josh Richardson and Al Horford, the two acquisitions in this free agency, along with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Tobias Harris, they made a great starting lineup and a menacing defensive lineup. I mentioned in one of my earlier videos this year where I felt that they're definitely the best defensive team in the NBA due to their just insane size and length. The shortest player on that starting lineup would be Josh Richardson at 6'6", and they're all, besides Joel Embiid, mobile defenders who can guard multiple positions, and arguably Joel Embiid can guard both big man positions along with Al Horford. Tobias Harris can guard the wing along with Josh Richardson, and Ben Simmons can hound the point guards due to his just insane mobility at his size. So overall, their defense on nights was killer. They could lock down any team. And that core wasn't only supported by those two free agent acquisitions of Al Horford and Josh Richardson. Another key player that they added this year was Matisse Thybulle, who I was high on before the draft. I felt that he was one of the best defenders in the draft, and he proved it in the NBA. His attack-minded defense, he's always hounding guys. He led the rookies in steals and was close in blocks as well. He's just, at his size, a great defender and has the potential to be a top 5 wing defender in the NBA, which is great for a team like the 76ers because they will always have Matisse Thybulle to come off that bench or even start in some cases to guard the best wing player or just even the best player on the other team as long as it's not a big man. This year, he also developed his three-point shot. He started off putrid from three-point line at the start of the year, but he developed his three-point shot, which really helped the Sixers, which I'll be mentioning, which is their lack of shooting. I'll be mentioning that later on. Another thing I want to mention is that their home record was impeccable. They had the best home record in the league. Before the season ended, they were 29-2 at home. That was by far the best record in the league at home. And it just proved that the 76ers, they have the talent, they have the ability, they have the chemistry to be a contender, a strong contender coming out from the East. So overall, there were some positives for the 76ers, such as their defense on some nights, and overall just having some players such as Shake Milton, who I'll be mentioning later on when I talk about the resumption of the season, who have really stood out as X factors to this team, Furkan Korkmaz. But let's talk about the players. Ben Simmons continued his development as just a LeBron type of playmaker with his size, but just the insane playmaking ability that he has. He's arguably the best player of the 76ers. Some say Embiid. I prefer Simmons. I don't know. Yes. Everyone knows he lacks a three-point shot. He lacks any jump shot. But just his talent and playmaking ability he handles with his size makes him such a threat coming down on the fast break. One of the best fast break players in the NBA. Embiid also had his nights, he wasn't as consistent as I feel he has been before, but he's still, that's obviously due to his injury concerns, but on some nights, he could pour in those 30 points, 15 rebounds, and be that prime Embiid that, can eventually become an MVP contender as long as he stays healthy. Another guy I want to talk about is Shake Milton, which I previously mentioned. He's the X factor for the Philadelphia 76ers in this upcoming resumption of the season. They definitely lack shooting, which I'll be mentioning later on. But Shake Milton can provide that, typical point guard role in the sense that despite not being the best playmaker, his ability to score is outstanding for the Sixers. He has a great three-point shot. He's just fast, stingy. He can really score the ball well. So him and Furkan Korkmaz, another shooter on their team, are the two X factors for the Philadelphia 76ers when the season resumes. Because as I said, the Sixers can either win the championship or falter in the first round, and it all depends on how consistent they stay with this core. They definitely lack shooting, but on their night, we've seen them be arguably a top 2 team in the NBA. And it's just all about if they can hit it well in Orlando. My personal prediction for them in the resumption of the season is making it to the second round. I feel they're going to end up as around the 4th or 5th seed, but then they'll be matched up against the Raptors or the Bucks, who I feel both have an edge over the Philadelphia 76ers due to their consistency and the fact that there's no home court advantage in this scenario. So despite having a very, very talented core, I feel them reaching the second round, but you never know. They are the real dark horse contenders in the sense that we don't know what's going to happen, but if I have to be objective, I feel that the Philadelphia 76ers will be eliminated in the second round of the playoffs. However, as I previously mentioned, there were many faults with the Sixers this year, which proves them as a volatile team. Firstly, it's their record away from home. I just couldn't understand it. They were one of the best teams in the NBA, have one of the best cores, yet they had the 5th worst away record. It was crazy to think about. Well, I don't honestly know what the reason is. One can assume it's, some young players like Embiid and Simmons. Their 2 stars are young. They lack some maturity, I feel, both of them. So playing away from home, they need that energy from the fans to perform as we see them perform at home. But away from home, they had a horrible record, which will not serve them well in Orlando when the season resumes. Another thing I need to mention is the lack of shooting. Besides Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton, the 76ers really struggle to shoot the ball well. As we all know, Ben Simmons is arguably the worst shooter in the NBA. Embiid is very inconsistent from the 5. Al Horford used to be a very consistent 3-point shooter. However, we can see that his game is aged, not only in a shooting sense, but just overall. He lacks that same impact that he made in Boston and Atlanta when he played for them. Josh Richardson, while in Miami was a great 3-point shooter, again, has been only above average for the Philadelphia 76ers. And Tobias Harris is the best 3-point shooter in that starting lineup, but he's also only shooting around 36%. So overall, this Sixers team lacks the modern requirement of a good 3-point shooting team. Besides Korkmaz, besides Shake Milton, who lack on the defensive end, they really struggle to shoot the ball. They lost JJ Redick in the offseason, which was a big loss for a team like the Sixers because he was the guy who they could run the off-ball screens for to get those open threes from great passes from Simmons. And in this case, they would have had Horford making those passes as well. So they really felt the loss of JJ Redick this year. And unless this past 3 months, Simmons has just worked so hard on improving a jump shot, or other players who we know have decent jump shots, used to have decent jump shots, such as Richardson and Horford, got back to that consistent level that they have had previously in their careers, that lack of shooting can really bite them in the butt during this resumption of the season, because shooting is so important, especially come playoff time. So the last thing I want to mention is that I feel like their free agent additions didn't serve as well as they could have. Horford, as I said, his game is aged. He isn't as effective as people saw him to be, complementing Embiid's game. He's lost his 3-point shot. He isn't as effective anymore. And Josh Richardson, while he has had his nights, he hasn't been too effective. So I feel Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick were better fits for the Sixers team than Josh Richardson and Al Horford have been. So while the offseason at first seemed very good for the Sixers, in hindsight, only Matisse Thybulle seems like the good player that will stay with the Sixers moving forward from this past 2019 offseason. And with that, I would like to wrap up the 22nd episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly series here on the NBA the week that was. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, if you did, please leave a like down below. If you have any feedback for me, leave it in the comments as well. Lastly, if you want to stay tuned for more NBA content such as this video, and moving forward when the season resumes, NBA content related to that, please subscribe and turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. And with that, I'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly series here on the NBA the week that was. See ya.